And we welcome you into another edition of the Mountaineer Puck Drop Preview here on the Mountaineer Hockey Network. A happy new year. I'm Camden Bellotti. And joining us today, the one with the beard and the hair, Mr. Adam Brown. How we doing, Brownie?
What's going on, Camden? How was your break?
Oh, it was good. It was good to be back in the lovely state of Connecticut. It's
Yeah,
the
did Santa treat
nutmeg
you well?
state. It's the nutmeg state, of course. Yeah, it was cold. It was really cold. No snow though, so I can't complain. But it was cold.
I
Uh,
like it. If it's gonna be cold, I need snow.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it. Tough weekend up at Louisville. 6-5 loss and a 3-1 loss. Or actually, check that. That was at Dayton, not Louisville. Uh, what were the key factors that contributed to the 6-5 loss in that first game?
So here is the one thing that I'm gonna give them is I had three of my top guns playing in Europe the week before the games. They were representing the ACC for the ACC All-Star team. Incredibly proud of those guys. One of the issues that we found ourselves in that 6-5 loss is shorthanded goals. And that's really what one shorthanded goal against a team is a disaster. But to give up multiple in a game is like you don't want to see that many in a semester. But at the end of the day, that little blip, I might be able to point to that as one of the reasons that we lost. But that's 5% of the story. The other 95% of the story is they didn't put together 60 minutes. All right, we lost 6-5. We lost by one goal. They were out shooting us. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they were out shooting us pretty big by the end of the second period. The third period, we came out of it outshooting them on the game, but we tripled their shots in just the third period. So what does that tell you? Because that tells me that the guys didn't show up ready to play. We don't accept bus legs as an excuse. So the three words that I tell the guys all the time are preparation, intensity, execution. But preparation is the first part. So bus legs are an excuse. And maybe if they had a bad first period, I could give it to them, but they had a bad first 30 minutes. And that's 95% of our issue right there is the guys didn't want to put together a full 60.
All right, and then let's move on to the second game. It was a 5-2 loss. Uh, what were the specific areas of concern or challenges that the team faced during that game?
It was the same deal, man. They didn't want to respond to what happened the day before. We had 20 ferocious minutes in the third period, and then we had spots before that. For the first 40, we had flashes of brilliance and then small disasters. And instead of Rue calls them waves, right? So you have ups and downs. Okay. And it looks like waves. If you're at the beach and there's waves coming at you, the best way to deal with those is to dive through those. Instead, we were riding our emotions and we let things get to us, and all of a sudden we spotted them three quick ones and we couldn't come back. Even though we played a phenomenal third period, if you mess things up and they get out of reach before that, then you just can't expect to come back against good teams. And Dayton was a really good team.
Yeah, and then we talked about all the issues. How do you and Connolly plan on, other than making him do laps, uh, plan to address the issues identified during this weekend games with the shorthanded goals and etc. And
I have a couple X's and O's things we're gonna fix. I'm not too concerned with shorthanded goals. I know that I said that it was such a disaster when that happens, but like that's just not who we are. So I don't want to overreact to something that happened in one weekend when that hasn't been us for the rest of the year. I think that that was a one-off thing, and one-off things will kill you, man. If this was the playoffs, our season would be over. But it wasn't the playoffs. This is the regular season. We're gonna live to fight another weekend. So we have a couple things that we'll correct. The shorthanded goals, they'll be addressed. Secondary scoring chances. We had a lot of shots on goal. We didn't have a ton of second chances. We didn't have a ton of traffic in front of the net. So we're gonna make ourselves harder to play against. We're gonna come up with some more dangerous scoring opportunities, and I feel really good about going into this weekend.
yeah, what wasn't mentioned was that extended break. You had about a month off from hockey. How does that play into the team's impact and, performance? You talk about maybe not working out the same as you do over that month.
To be honest with you, it's a non-impact. Dayton took the same amount of time off as we did, and to be honest with you, I had three guys playing in an all-star game. I had a guy that went home and played junior hockey. I had guys on the ice. I would expect Dayton had examples of the same exact thing. we all took the same amount of time off. So it's really not an impact. It's really not an excuse. Taking the time off and then having almost 5 hours that goes back to the preparation. You know, if you know that you're gonna have bus legs, if you know that you took time off, take extra time for your warm up more intensely. Take some time to stick handle, take some more time to stretch. But things like that aren't excuses on this team.
I like that. No excuses. I like that. How do you keep the team motivated and focused on the upcoming games?
I lucked out with the schedule, to be honest with you. If we were gonna lose two, and maybe we were going up against a team that wasn't so hot, maybe I'd be looking for ways to motivate the guys. Maybe I would have to get into my coach's bag of tricks and see what I can come up with. But at the end of the day, man, this is Virginia Tech coming up, and this is probably our biggest rivalry outside of playoff competition, outside of our playoffs. I don't need to find that bag of tricks to get these guys motivated for Virginia Tech. They'll be there. They'll be ready to go. I'm sure Virginia Tech feels the exact same way. So we got the better of them the last two times, and the boys know that Virginia Tech is going to come firing, so they're ready for it.
And you brought it up. Let's move ahead into our next segment about focusing on the Hokies out of Virginia Tech. A one game series against them. That's Friday night. Uh, Last time you guys played them earlier last semester, you beat them 7-5. What lessons did the coaching staff, you and Connolly, learn from that game and are applying to the upcoming matchup?
Our responses were really, really positive. So when I was talking about riding those waves versus jumping through them, at Virginia Tech, there were a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Virginia Tech came out and scored, I believe, the first two, and then we tied it up. And I think they got the next one, and we tied it up again. They scored very late to take the lead, and it looked like we were going to walk out of there with a loss. But Mark Stankiewicz scored from behind the goal line with like 40 seconds left. It was intense, man. It was ups and downs, and every single time when something bad happened, the guys took it as a call to action. They took it as a rallying call, and they responded the way that hockey players should, the way that a championship team should. So if we have more of that coming up, if there's a constant belief in yourself, it doesn't matter what happens. I don't care how many. If we spot them two goals, I don't want that to happen,
Mhm.
but you're never out of it. If we come out and we score the first two, they're not going to quit. They're going to keep piling it on. If they come out and they score the first two, they're not going to quit. They're going to come right back. So it's all about how we respond to the adversities that every single hockey game contains. Because Virginia Tech, I would like to see the stats on this, but every game against them that I've been involved in, it hasn't been more than a 2 goal game. And I think a lot of those second goals are empty netters. So
Wow, I didn't know that actually. Uh, Virginia Tech is likely to analyze that last game they played, obviously with the film and everything. How do you plan on keeping the team dynamic and include new elements that maybe Virginia Tech didn't see with the lineup?
that's an interesting question because I don't think, and if I had to guess for Virginia Tech, I would think that maybe they're thinking the same thing. I don't foresee either team changing too much. I would say I want to go into Friday night and I want to play our team's game the best. We know what our game is at this point. It's January. We have over 20 games played now. We might be right at 20, actually. We've played a ton of hockey this year. So I know what I want our identity to look like. I'm sure they know what they want their identity to look like. We want to be the best at playing our game.
Yeah, and then what challenges does Virginia Tech, show as an opponent, and how do you plan on taking care of those challenges at practice?
They are very, very fast. They're very dangerous on the rush. And they're also, I'm not to say top heavy, but like their first line is incredible. They have one line, they have four solid lines, but they have one line that just head and shoulders above the rest. And they have one guy specifically that he's a very sick hockey player. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And unfortunately, one of their assistant coaches let me know the last time we played them that he will be there for 5 years. So I have to deal with that. Um, but a big part of that is fast teams, teams with a good top line like that. We want to play them 5-on-5. We don't want to give them a man advantage. We don't want those guys out there against four of our guys. We want to play them 5-on-5 the entire time. Because take any one of my lines, we'll play them 5-on-5. when special teams get added into the mix, whatever team's losing the penalty battle, when the teams are this evenly matched, what I'm saying is don't put the game in the hands of the referees. All right, we don't want to lose the penalty battle. We want to play a 5-on-5 game against them and or win the penalty battle. That would be great. But I like our chances if those things happen.
Yeah, you talked about the recent success against Virginia Tech. Obviously, that's sitting in their minds. But how do you maintain the team's focus and prevent like any complacency, against this team?
It's the same lesson. That lesson doesn't stop at Virginia Tech. That lesson stops at it's every single team we play. So if we win, if we go on a winning streak, all right, I'm telling the guys, you can't become complacent. Like this is your job. Like winning becomes business when you're doing that. You're not you're not overly enthralled by any one victory because that's just taking care of business. Your job right now is to win hockey games. And it's the same thing. It might not be on the same scale because, we only play them twice a year, but it's the same deal. Beating Virginia Tech, it's taking care of business. All right. If we lose to Virginia Tech, we didn't do our job. But that it's the same exact way for Virginia Tech this Friday as it's going to be for JMU and then Mercyhurst after that, and then UVA after that, and then the playoffs. It's all taking care of business. We show up to the rink every single time ready to play.
All right, and then my favorite question of all time that everybody gets to hear, expectations for this weekend.
Expectations for this weekend. I expect a close game. Like I said, man, I don't think that any of the games I've been a part of were outside of two goals. It's going to be close. There's going to be a lot of highs and lows for both teams. It's going to be emotional. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't want to overhype anything, but this is other than playoffs. This is one of the most fun games of the year. I had a great time going down and playing them in their barn. We're home. We're in front of our crowd. People usually show up on the stream for this one. The fans come ready for the Virginia Tech game, and so I mean we're really excited for it.
All righty, as I say, you got to beat down those Hokies. So coming up in Mountaineer hockey this weekend, the Division II team is obviously home Friday night, and then we have another matchup for you on Saturday. The women's team takes on RMU, so that should be a fun matchup. You gonna be my color analysis for that one, Brownie?
Am I going to be your color analyst?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how Friday night goes.
Yeah. All right, so that'll wrap it up here for us. I'm Cameron Bellotti, and that was the lovely Mr. Adam Brown. We'll see you next time here on the Mountaineer Hockey Network. Goodbye, folks.